Minnesota, Bernie Sanders held a rally with Representative Ilhan Omar. And already, this is like a huge crowd showed up, 10,000 people there. So I think Amy Klobuchar has a lot to worry about. So what do I mean by this? Well, here in the opening statements, this is from Representative Ilhan Omar. She said she was honored to stand with the son of a Jewish refugee who survived the genocide. The acknowledgement of pain and suffering is personal for both of us. She basically went on to state that in a sea of corruption, Senator Bernie Sanders continuously stood for justice and never bowed to special interests. That's a resolve we need in a president. And then Bernie Sanders said this: people say Ilhan and I make it an odd political couple, but in fact, there's nothing really odd about it at all. Ilhan and I share a common link as the descendants of families who fled violence and poverty and who came to this country as immigrants. But that's not just my story or Ilhan's story. This is a story of America. And, again, thankfully, 3 members of the squad have already endorsed Senator Bernie Sanders, and it looks like his campaign is continuously to gain momentum. It's something that we've talked about off the show and even during the show and after the show, where, Senator Sanders is becoming the clear front runner. And as much as the polling data is showing us from corporate media, it's quite clear that he's gaining a lot of followers. So, Paul, why don't you just kind of, get your input in it? Same thing, Eric, too. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Omar.
Minneapolis is not in Michigan.
Okay, well, first of all right, don't lay it on me. I got it messed up there for one second.
Yeah, but this is very similar to AOC endorsing Bernie as well. A lot of people after that endorsement were ready to flip, right? People who were Warren supporters were like, whoa, that's not the endorsement I expected out of AOC. And someone like Ilhan Omar,
and then Rashid Tlaib,
and then Rashid Tlaib, who is from Michigan.
High five. There you go.
Those are really important endorsements. It can't be understated. And particularly, I think back to, remember when Ilhan Omar returned to Minnesota, I forget the exact occasion, but she was going back to see her constituents and was just met with quite the crowd of she's very popular in her home state. And so Klobuchar being like, I got this, and then Ilhan being like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
Eric.
Yeah, no, this is another big boost for his campaign. People thought he would not recover after his heart surgery or the stents that were put in. He thought, that would be a done deal, but it's obviously not true because look at all the crowds he's drawing in. He's drawing in thousands of people, bigger crowds than anybody else in the race. And this endorsement from Ilhan Omar is just another big boost for his campaign. So obviously the Bernie train is still rolling.
Well, there's a bigger picture to look at this, and that is, what have we been hearing in regards to corporate media, in regards to Senator Bernie Sanders entering into this 2020 race? Everyone was saying, well, what's the purpose of Bernie Sanders entering into this race? Why is he here? What purpose does he serve? And I think the evidence is clear that people liked his message in 2016. A lot of people were upset at the clear election fraud during the primary Democratic primary in 2016. And, people want to see somebody who's consistent with their policies actually win and succeed. Look, Bernie Sanders has been consistent with his policies. And who motivated people like AOC, Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and numerous others to actually step up and run for office? Because I hate saying this, guys, Bernie Sanders will not be around forever, and he cannot do this by himself. And it's going to be up to us to step up and get involved in our political system, know our state laws, know our federal laws, and actually bring in change. Yeah, Bernie Sanders is the catalyst, but the ball's in our court, and we have to step up. No matter what our age is, no matter what our background is, we have to step up and get involved. And when Ilhan Omar endorsed Senator Bernie Sanders, the evidence is there. 10,000 people showed up at a Bernie Sanders rally. This man and his campaign are able to command a lot of people and get their attention. Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit with just saying, like, Bernie is starting this movement. Bernie's talking consistently about how it's not me, us. Bernie's not going to be around forever. He's what inspired people like Ilhan and AOC to run in the first place. Maybe not in the first place, but certainly maybe push them over the edge. They talk about him as a source of inspiration for their candidacy. I want to say that, one of the things that we've been hearing is that sort of that very mainstream talking point of, oh, what's Bernie doing again? We've either, oh, all of his ideas are old and they're so ubiquitous and we don't need him around anymore, or this hand waving away and dismissing of Bernie Sanders, and therefore also this dismissing of these endorsements is pervasive. That's mainstream groupthink, and it's obvious that Bernie is not their candidate because he's rocking their boat, and they don't want that, and he's going to cost them a lot. But the thing that I kind of want to combat against is the AOC endorsement was huge. It was far-reaching. People talked about it.
It overshadowed the forced Democratic debate.
It did. I'm not certain I'm seeing the level of enthusiasm out of the Ilhan endorsement as I did out of the AOC endorsement. It's great. We need to champion that and say, look at this voice. And I'm wondering if it's either resonating differently or if it's just being a lot more actively ignored. I wonder if the AOC endorsement was less ignored and they went, ooh, we maybe shouldn't mention that so much.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of also expected.
We knew it was coming. She announced it would happen.
But also if this were to happen to any other candidate, it'd be totally hyped up in the mainstream media. Like they'd be talking about it for hours. Like, Fredo on what's on CNN would be talking about it like nonstop.
He'd yell at you, say, "You get out of here."
Yeah, he's really scary. But again, so the reasons why he is has so many people come out and support him is also because, like we were saying, he's consistent. All the policies that the mainstream media is saying, well, he keeps talking about these things. Well, yeah, because these things matter, and this is what needs to be done still in the United States. Is all these policies that he's been talking about all these years are what the people need, and that's why the people gravitate toward him, is because he has been talking about it for so long, and he's the only one that's been honest and consistent all these years, 40 plus years. He's been talking about these issues that have been at the root causes of working class issues.
Right. And, something I'm kind of preparing myself, and that is later on down the road, I'm preparing for corporate media to shame Ilhan Omar, AOC, and Rashid Tlaib for endorsing somebody. Like, we're going to see one of those articles or an opinion piece somewhere in the New York Times or Washington Post or even on CNN or ABC saying, well, how come these three didn't support Warren? Well, there's a very good reason why. When we look at all the other candidates that are in the race, look, my first choice is Senator Bernie Sanders, and we got to look at someone who's consistent with his policies. Consistency matters. Voters are aware. We now have a lot of information at our fingertips. We have the internet at our fingertips, whether our cell phones or our personal laptops. No matter what it is, we're able to get information, and we're able to look at the voting record of all the candidates that are in this race. And the evidence is clear. Bernie Sanders is the leading progressive. He's leading in the polls. He's gaining more momentum, and corporate media is doing everything it can that can silence any kind of positive news about Bernie Sanders and hype up any kind of misspeak that Sanders might say during his campaign. So that's what we can expect. But at least right now, we're seeing his campaign still gaining momentum.
It'd be funny if it happens. I don't know if it's something to expect, but you mentioned certain news outlets and how they might handle it, and I'm imagining like the far right, like the Blaze outlets being like, we know you can't support Bernie. He hates America like Ilhan. And it's just, oh my goodness, Republicans, please stop.
Yeah. Go figure.